Most urban balconies are nothing but sterile grey slabs of concrete, lifeless, heat-trapping, and disconnected from the rhythms that once sustained human civilizations. But that wasn't always the case. For thousands of years, people grew food in confined spaces on terraces, rooftops, and courtyards, turning even the smallest footprint into a source of nourishment and resilience. Today, we're going to reclaim that lost knowledge and apply it right here, right now. This isn't about placing a few pots and hoping for herbs. This is about dismantling the modern decorative plant mindset and engineering a high-yield living system, an organic food forest scaled to a balcony. What you're about to learn isn't just gardening, it's ecological design in miniature, where every plant, every layer, and every inch of space work together to produce food, build soil, and restore balance. And by the end of this, you won't just see your balcony differently. You'll know exactly how to transform it into something that feeds you. Understanding why most balconies fail before they even begin. The biggest mistake people make is treating a balcony like an outdoor room instead of a growing environment. Concrete absorbs heat, drains moisture rapidly, and reflects light in harsh ways that stress plants. Soil in small containers dries out quickly, nutrients deplete faster, and wind exposure can disrupt growth cycles. Historically, intensive growers from ancient terrace farmers to wartime urban gardeners understood that productivity comes from controlling conditions, not reacting to them. Your first job is not planting, it is stabilizing the environment. Start by observing how sunlight moves across your balcony throughout the day. South or west-facing spaces will need shade management, while north-facing areas require reflective surfaces to maximize light. You can attach simple whiteboards or reflective panels to redirect sunlight deeper into your growing area. This alone can, honestly, double productivity in shaded corners. Building soil that behaves like a living ecosystem instead of dead dirt. Soil is not a static medium. It is a living system, and in containers, that system must be engineered deliberately. Most store-bought potting mixes are sterile and degrade quickly, leading to compacted roots and poor water retention. Instead, you need a structure that balances aeration, moisture, and biology. A reliable mix starts with a base of compost for nutrients, coco coir or peat for water retention, and perlite or coarse sand for airflow. But the real transformation comes when you treat soil as something that improves over time. Add kitchen scraps in small amounts, use worm castings, and top dress with organic matter regularly. Over weeks, microbial life develops, and your soil begins to function more like forest soil, retaining water, cycling nutrients, and supporting stronger plant growth. A practical way to apply this is to set up a small worm bin under a table or corner of your balcony. Feed it vegetable scraps, and within weeks you'll have a continuous supply of nutrient-rich compost that keeps your system alive. Designing vertical layers turns limited space into an exponential yield. A food forest is not defined by size, but by structure. In nature, forests produce abundance because they grow in layers: canopy, understory, shrubs, ground cover, and roots. On a balcony, you replicate this vertically. Tall plants like tomatoes or climbing beans act as your upper layer, capturing maximum sunlight. Beneath them, leafy greens such as spinach or lettuce thrive in partial shade. Trailing plants like strawberries or sweet potatoes can spill over edges, turning unused vertical space into productive zones. Even root crops like carrots or radishes can be grown in deeper containers below. The key is stacking growth rather than spreading it. A simple example is placing a trellis against a wall for climbing beans, positioning a medium container with peppers in front, and using smaller pots of herbs at the base. In 1 square metre, you've created 3 layers of production instead of 1. Water management, it really becomes the difference between survival and abundance. Water behaves differently in containers than it does in the ground. It drains faster, evaporates quicker, and, it can fluctuate a lot more dramatically with temperature. So, instead of watering on a schedule, you need to create a system that retains moisture while still allowing for airflow. Adding mulches, like dry leaves, straw, or even shredded paper on top of your soil, that reduces evaporation significantly. Self-watering containers or even simple drip systems can help stabilize moisture levels, but honestly, even without those, you can improve efficiency by watering deeply and less frequently. A practical method is to insert a small, perforated bottle into the soil near your plant roots, letting water seep slowly rather than just running off. This kind of mimics natural absorption and keeps roots hydrated for longer. Over time, keeping those moisture levels consistent leads to faster growth and, higher yields. Choosing plants that work together instead of competing really does change everything. Productivity just shoots up when you pick plants based on compatibility, not just what you fancy growing. Certain plants actually support each other, improving soil health, deterring pests, or making the most of the space you've got. For instance, planting basil near tomatoes not only boosts their growth, but also helps to keep insects at bay. Leafy greens, they do well in the shade, cast by taller crops, which eases their stress and lets you harvest for longer. Legumes like beans, they enrich the soil by fixing nitrogen, which is a real benefit for their neighbours. Historically, this approach, companion planting, was vital for small-scale farmers who needed every bit of efficiency they could get. On your balcony, it means you can fit more in, using less space and fewer resources. A practical setup, for example, might have a tomato plant supported by a stake, basil at its base, and lettuce tucked into the shaded spots. Each plant's got its role, and together they make a system that's balanced and productive. Managing microclimates, it can really turn harsh spaces into productive little zones. Every balcony, no matter how small, has its own microclimate, tiny areas where the conditions are just a bit different. You'll find corners holding more humidity, walls bouncing back heat, and railings catching the brunt of the wind. Instead of trying to fight these differences, you can use them to your advantage. Put moisture-loving plants like herbs in those sheltered corners, and let your sun-loving crops bask in the brightest spots. You can even use vertical screens or hang up a bit of fabric to cut down on the wind. Over time, as your plants grow, they'll start to shape their own microclimate too, giving shade and holding onto moisture, so the whole environment becomes more stable and productive. That's how a balcony that once felt exposed and tough gradually turns into a self-regulating ecosystem. Harvesting continuously, rather than just once a season, is what keeps your system alive, honestly. One of the most overlooked principles in small-space gardening is this idea of continuous harvesting. Instead of planting everything at the same time and waiting for a single big harvest, you stagger your planting. Sow new seeds every couple of weeks, rotate your crops, and harvest regularly to encourage things to regrow. Leafy greens, for example, can be cut and will grow back several times. Herbs, they'll actually give you more if you trim them often. This way, your balcony stays active and productive all year, instead of swinging between being full and then empty. It's a method that really mirrors the old ways, where constant renewal was just a part of survival. Closing the loop, now that's what turns your balcony into a self-sustaining system. The aim isn't just to grow a bit of food, but to rely less on outside inputs. Composting your kitchen scraps, saving seeds from your best plants, and reusing organic matter. All of that helps you build a closed-loop system. Over time, your balcony stops being just about consumption and starts being about regeneration. Even small steps, like collecting rainwater or using plant trimmings as mulch, they really do add up, making your setup more sustainable and resilient. This is where the real transformation happens, from a bare bit of concrete to a living, productive ecosystem. It's how you break away from the usual urban look and build something that feeds you, supports life, and reconnects you with a much older, deeper way of living. And if this guide has helped you see things more clearly, or even inspired you to start your own transformation, do subscribe to Leaf and Ladder. And maybe share this with someone who's ready to turn their balcony into something that truly grows.